Board will be called to order, and we'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, and then we'll begin the roll call with, let's begin with Sherry.
Okay, Sherry Smith.
Allison Geeson.
Jim Adderholt. I didn't know. I know.
Yeah. Betty Simpson.
Barbara Hill.
Becky Werner.
Ellen Vaughn.
I do have an excused absence from Seal Spuler and also Bill Grace. I have not heard from Lori.
Okay,
I heard from Lori.
Okay.
She called this morning and she said, "Are you going to the meeting?" And I said, "Yes." And she said, "Well, I won't be able to be there."
okay.
She's in the hospital.
Oh, well, thanks for sharing that with us, Betty.
She drove herself. She had a heart problem and drove in last night. But she thinks that she'll be able to come home today.
Oh, good.
Anyway, so she will not be here.
That's good news. And I want to begin by welcoming our newest CELCAB member, Ellen Vaughn.
Yes.
Ellen, would you please take a stand?
Yes.
Thank you for volunteering.
Yes.
And I'm so glad that council accepted your nomination.
It was
for being
iffy.
a member.
It was iffy.
We are all thrilled to have you. Of course, we all have known you and worked with you over the years, so it's kind of, we're already family, but now we're a little closer family.
Yes. Well, thank you. I'm very, very thrilled to be part of the part of the committee.
You are going to be a great addition to CELCAB for sure.
Thank you.
And so with that, we will look at the community reorganization of nomination of chair and vice chair. So are the nominations for chair available for anyone?
Our same,
Right?
excuse me, I would move that we keep our same chairman. Barbara, I think she's done an excellent job, and I think she'll carry us on through.
Thank you.
I would like to second that and say ditto, ditto, ditto.
Okay, well, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Becky.
So
Thank
that was
you.
a motion by Betty Simpson and a second by Becky Warner.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
Please remember to state your name.
Right,
Sorry.
the second the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None? Motion carried. Thank you all so much for your vote of confidence over the years. I love serving as your chair. And it's an honor to have been that in the past and will be in the future. So a great year going forward. With Allison, of course, at the real helm.
Yeah.
That's the real boss. She's the boss of us.
While we're at it, and I'm doing pretty well, I would like to nominate Sherry as our vice chairman. Continue.
Absolutely.
I would like to second that. That's Becky Werner seconding and Betty firsting.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? None? Motion
Been so
carried.
good advice, right?
And congratulations.
Both of you have done a good job.
Thank you so much. So we will now look at the approval of the minutes. I'm assuming everyone's had an opportunity to review them. I thought they were all very accurate in their recording of our minutes. So
I'm on a roll, so I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes of the July 22nd, 2021 minutes.
thank you, Betty. Seconded by,
I'll second.
okay, Sherry. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Public invited to comment. There is no one in the audience, so we will then move forward to the director's report. Allison.
Thank you, Barbara. Before I forget, there is one thing that I forgot to put on the agenda, and that is the town council. We have a schedule of advisory boards that give updates, and CELCAB is for the December 6th council meeting. And I wanted to put that to the chair to see who would like to represent and give an update on CELCAB and what they've been working on. And that's Monday, December 6th, and the meeting
9 o'clock. Would someone like to take that role? Mary, would you
Number
like,
6,
I've done
I
it
can
in the
do it.
past,
Yeah,
but
I can
why
do
don't
it.
you
I've
do
done
it this
too.
year?
Yeah, I don't mind. Sure.
Wonderful. Okay.
Wonderful. Sherry Smith, good. Thank you, Sherry.
Sure.
Okay, and then I did have an add-on, an email from Steve Johnson that I printed out for you all, and I'm sorry about the little lines going down.
That's fine.
But I wanted to make sure that he was unable to attend the meeting today, and I told him that I would share this with you all to get any kind of input. So I wanted to let you know about that, and you all can discuss that. The director's report today, this week actually, we have the Historic Preservation Team, the International Fine Arts Conservation Studios at Mound House, doing some much needed repairs. They're just working away. They'll be on site for about 2 weeks. The underground exhibit is still, we had lightning strike a couple of Fridays ago, and one of our monitor, some equipment got damaged. Our monitor in our underground exhibit is not working, but we now know what the problem is. So we're getting a monitor, which is not as fast as I want it to due to shipping delays, but we should be able to have the monitor playing. The audio and the lights still playing. Of course, we have interpreters, and Sherry, you know, you've been on site, and so does Ellen.
And it works.
So we look forward to getting that, and then also the stabilization with University of Georgia and University of Florida and the Seminole Tribe and others got approved. So we're very excited about that. The project will start archaeology tentatively September of 2022, and it is going to be a great collaborative effort with many organizations. We got approval from the tribe to move forward, which was a huge deal, and we're very excited to be able to get that. Cultural sensitivities is something that we're very aware of, and we want to make sure that we continue to interpret and teach about that and how that is to be done. So we're really excited about that. When I get final dates, I'll share updates. We just got the approval a couple weeks ago, so the team of archaeologists from University of Georgia and University of Florida are looking at schedules to try to schedule early September of 2022. And of course, the Seminole Tribe members will be present, as well as some people from the Atatiki Museum, Florida Public Archaeology. We have a team of people that we're collaborating with. We're really excited that that has gone through. It was.
You've been working on this for almost a year.
Yes, and the process of getting the approval with the proposal of what is to happen and what their requirements are, and then the outcome of the outreach and things like that has been quite extensive, and we're really excited to be able. The tribe only
And how
meets
is
once a month.
that being funded?
Actually, it's a capital project.
Okay. So, I mean, there were so many moving parts with all these various groups that you're having to coordinate.
Yes. We're really excited. So that's something to look forward to in fall of 2022. And we are going to 5 days a week starting in November. Normally, we don't go 5 days a week until the 1st of January, but we have full staff minus Dexter, but we're going to be able to accommodate that for our visitors to see how our visitation goes. So that's starting November 1st, actually 2nd, because that'll be Tuesday. We'll be open Tuesday through Saturday, 9 to 4. Our member event is coming up. Are you going to be able to come to that?
Tell me a little more.
I invited you.
When you say member,
You have to come. You're
There's a
obligated.
member event. We have a member appreciation event every year, and we didn't get to have it last year due to COVID. So we are having it on Friday, November 5th, and I think all of you have already RSVP'd. And it's from 5:30 to 7. Music will be provided by the Pearl Street Band, and it's going to be an outside event. It will be a catered event, very nice. We hope the weather is beautiful, so we hope that you'll be able to join us.
I am so sorry I missed that email, but I would love to come.
Okay,
But thank
we'll
you
put you
very
on the
much.
list.
Yeah,
I'm
thank you.
glad I asked. So it's to show appreciation and support for our membership, which continues to grow, and we're very pleased about getting the special events to getting back to those. So if you have any questions about our programming, we do have a new calendar layout, has 2 months on it, and also we're trying to get ahead on the calendar website. It's been very well received. You can open it up and you have the 2 months for people who like the paper. Otherwise, we're trying to get as far ahead as we can. We'll have the December calendar on there any day on the website, and then we'll go to January and February. My goal is to really get 4 to 6 months, especially in season, because people are planning ahead. So the team is working hard to get that done and on there. So visitation has been really good, and we're just really pleased to be able to continue to meet the needs of our visitors. So my report.
Wonderful.
Yes, Becky.
May I have a suggestion? After this project on the next year with everybody, what about a kind of a big due report? Some of the people who were maybe in attendance, some of the,
Yes,
it'd be
so-
interesting to have Atatiki people or Seminole people talking about their parts or, what was done.
Yes, so we already have one of the Atatiki staff members has already proposed to publish a professional paper in a journal
Fantastic.
on this approach and the approach of how you make a project like this happen and all parties involved. And so there will definitely be something out of this. There'll be
Great.
several things, actually. This is just the beginning of finding out exactly all the different things. We did have, you weren't at the last meeting, I don't know, Becky, we had WGCU with Untold Stories have an interest in this. 5,000 was from Lee County Trust for Historic Preservation, but we have some fundraising to do, so they're seeking sponsors for that, and that would be something that would be about this project. And of course, we would need to get permission from the tribe on how much we could share or film. But we're really excited to be able to do that, because there's not one on our part of the story. So the Untold Stories are very popular. I don't know if you
Yeah.
Oh, the Untold
really
Stories are
popular right now,
fabulous.
coming back. So it was to talk about the Calusa in Southwest Florida. So it's a really great project. We'll wait to see how much money they can raise. So they
It
are
is
looking.
basically WGCU that
It
is
is.
actually responsible for the fundraising element.
Absolutely, Barbara.
And that's
yes.
specifically Rachel Peacock.
Yes,
Yes,
she
okay.
is, that's who I'm in contact with. So we meet, we've been meeting on a regular basis every couple of months to see where the project is. And now that we've got that, we just need to work with the Seminole Tribe on details of what can be filmed and what they're comfortable with and kind of the story. So it'll be a really great collaborative project to be able to hopefully find the funding for. So Becky, you said at several meetings ago you wanted a documentary, and so this is the part of that. And then there will be published things come out, as well as our interpretive programs that we're going to be able to do in collaboration with the Atatiki. We're just really excited to be able to partner with them to get this message out, to try to assist in any way that we can, not only for the museum field, but also for archaeologists and different people in the field to understand kind of how you can do this and how you can make it.
And the significance of what the Mound House brings to the community.
Absolutely.
And to the field of all of these, specialties like archaeology. So the Florida Trust for Historic Preservation, are they playing a role in this at all?
Not the Florida Trust. No, this was Lee. It was
Right, I
the
know, but
Lee
why
County.
not the Florida Trust? Because this is a Florida project.
Yes, but it is, I'll have to check with them, Barbara. I have the
Okay.
funds to be able to do the project, so if they want to be a part of, it really would be the department, and they are, the department, the Division for Cultural, what is the state one?
I'm sorry, hold it.
My bad. Sorry.
There is, the
could you
state is definitely involved because we had to go through them, but it's not the historic preservation. It is the
No, you're right, it's
Division of
archaeology.
Historical Resources.
Right,
Yes,
right.
They are involved, yes,
Good,
ma'am. Yeah.
good, good.
Sorry, I was thinking.
No, and of course, it was my bad, because historic preservation, although it is
Exactly.
kind of preserving
It
the
is.
history, but this
Yes.
is actually prehistory, so.
Because they've helped with the background, and they have been one of the players involved with all this, so they
Been
will
a key
definitely-
player from the inception
Yes.
of the Mound House in general, for sure.
Absolutely.
So as long as they're in the loop and
Oh,
aware of
absolutely.
what's going on.
We had to start with them because of the background of the grant and everything that they have been involved with, providing funding for a lot of the project previous.
And didn't at one point, and I'm not quite sure if it was Florida Trust, but remember there was a conference a state conference that was held at the Mount House when they had.
That was the year, Teresa was still here.
Yes.
I was just starting at the Edison and Ford. It was in May of 2010, I think, yes.
Sounds about right.
It
Sounds
was,
about
because
right.
I remember I wanted to start my job at Edison and Ford because they had a hosting, and Mound House had an evening or something there, and then I know Edison and
Lisa
Ford did.
Spitoni was there,
Yes,
and
Chris Pendleton, yes.
Chris
yeah,
Pendleton,
yeah.
both were there, so I think I still have pictures from that, but, yeah, so something like that, sort of, again, bringing in, greater
Absolutely.
recognition on the statewide level among the colleagues that you have to work with all the time, so.
Yeah, they
very
are
cool.
definitely involved, Barbara. Yes, thanks for bringing that up.
Okay.
Yes, Sherry.
Just, people have asked me this, and are we doing Mound Key tours? I mean, like January, February?
We have not found a vendor yet.
Okay.
Fishtail did, they decided not to offer the partner with us, so we are still trying to find a vendor.
Okay.
One of the challenges is to find the appropriate size of boat, because it is very tricky. We don't want to damage any of the vegetation. We don't want to do any damage to the resource itself.
right.
So we're still trying to locate that, but we don't have anything scheduled right
Yeah,
now.
okay, because people ask, and that reminds me that someone made the comment that they're concerned about boats coming in, that there might be hurting the environment. Did you hear anything like that? Know where I heard that, but somebody mentioned, it must have been Mound House, I don't know.
Yeah.
With the, the area where boats come in, the little inlet that
Yeah.
that they're concerned that
Yeah,
it's.
you have to know how to navigate back there. And the captains that we used at Mound Key was always the same captain and very experienced, and always had to get in there at high tide. You have to hit it just right. So when we scheduled our boat tours, we had to make sure that it was the right time in order to be able to easily get in there to not damage anything. And we actually had to cancel one or two because of the weather and the wind, and it pushed the water.
Right.
And we had to reschedule that, so.
So it might be other people that aren't knowledgeable that are coming in that they're
Yes.
concerned about. So,
Yeah,
okay,
it is
thanks.
something that is you really have to learn that
Yes,
area, like when you
yes.
boat in Southwest Florida,
Exactly.
it's one of those, and it is one of the more tricky,
Yes,
absolutely,
it
Sherry.
is. Okay, thanks.
This is an unrelated question, Allison, but are the goats still on the island when the island changed hands? Or they?
I think so. Think they're on.
I'm just curious. Yeah.
I think once the property was
Transferred.
transferred to
yeah,
the state
I
of
think that
Florida, I
they're
don't think the
gone.
state of Florida really wanted.
I've got pictures of the goat.
But it is a good question, because actually they made perfect sense to keep the goats
It's
there.
just so interesting to run into goats on this island.
Yeah.
When they get loose.
Logical
Yeah.
scenario, and we can't keep those boats and the public from
No,
going in.
and-
There's no
right.
oversight there in
No,
terms of,
no, there isn't.
any security, so, and I think it's up to the state of Florida to determine
Right.
what to do with that, and they're just not forthcoming with a plan. So it's unfortunate.
Yes.
That's a treasure.
Yes.
Thank you for your report, Allison. Quick, you were talking, there was funds available in the budget for this year with regard to getting better sound equipment and a new monitor. And I'm hoping it's the old monitor that was struck by lightning, not the new monitor, am I right?
You are correct.
All right, thank
That was
you.
the old one. Contact with them
just
and say,
wanted to
hey,
make
we
sure."
need that sooner than later because we don't have one. So yes, you're absolutely right. Thank goodness, right? Yes.
Right? I was saying, oh, please don't let it be the new
Yes,
one.
it is. And they have one. I just was in contact with her. She's got it. So we just need to schedule. Yeah,
Oh, just win-win all the way around, okay, because it needed to be replaced anyway.
it did. It did.
Is there any way to protect against future lightning strikes?
We have a lot in place. I'm going to let you know the things that I've learned about what happened is some things you cannot protect, no matter what. But we have everything in there, possibly. Like, for instance, the sound and the computer and everything was safe. And, certain things, but that one, for some reason, just got. So we have things in place for whatever reason. This one was a very different, because we've had stuff happen before. This one definitely was a different type of storm.
It was a loud crack that night. I mean,
That was a real bad storm,
Yes.
and it went into the lines of, and like the Ethernet, and because our Xfinity was blown, so it traveled in a different path that it's not ever traveled before. So we're still recuperating some of our equipment, things like that.
Is the sound working again?
The sound and the lights are working
Yeah,
fine. You
but-
hear Teresa's voice, it's just the video
Yeah.
doesn't play.
Well, when I was there Saturday, it quit on me. The sound
Yeah.
did, for some reason.
Now at 12 o'clock, it always
that-
stops,
right,
Sherry. We have no
right.
idea why.
Yeah, but this was,
Really?
yeah,
Oh,
at 12 o'clock it
It's not
stops and they have to
Does.
reset it.
We've narrowed
Right.
it down to exact time, so yeah.
Right, and then we had it on at 12:30 or 1 o'clock, and it only went halfway through and it stopped.
Yeah. So
But if
it
it's-
definitely needs to get replaced, for sure.
People don't mind. I've heard people say they don't mind the sound.
Yeah.
Yeah, they go, it actually, they say, what, we watch enough television?
Yeah, and they can imagine, because she's very descriptive with
Yes,
what she's
yes,
talking about, and then you've got the
yeah,
lights.
And they kind
so
of,
you
right,
can,
so
that's
it's
good.
worked.
That's good.
We had a copy of that video, and people could access it on their phones as they're listening to
same
the
time.
audio. I'm wondering if that would have been a good, stopgap measure until the new monitor's in.
Yeah, we did check on that, and the video is actually on the computer, and so it's not something that we can access easily.
Okay.
And that's been one of the challenges of the team doing that. The original production company, White Hawk Productions, we were in touch with. They did the original, and we wanted to try to see, if we could get something quicker than getting off the computer. And I guess the owner passed away, and they're unable to help us. But the contractor is busy working with the ones who installed to be able to do that. But we had a monitor, actually, a computer monitor doing that. But it had to do something with the HDMI signal. You can't have an extension because once you turn it on and off, it loses it. So we did try that, Barbara. We've tried several different things, and unfortunately,
I think it's sort of full circle, because if you remember in the very beginning, we only had video, and those of us who were doceting at the time had to do the narrative.
oh, right.
This is the reverse. And I can share Sherry's same experience, because I've been volunteering on Thursdays, and I just tell people this is a new feature. We're going back to, this is like listening to a radio program.
Right.
You sit and close your eyes, and then I tell them as the music comes up, this is mood setting, so that you're getting into the spirit of the Calusa. And everybody seems fine with it.
And the lights are on.
Because
so-
podcasts are so popular, the idea that you're just listening, to a podcast
Right,
is completely, mainstream activity now. So,
And it's all of 8 minutes. It's not as if it, your attention wanders.
right.
With the lights, the neon lights working, it works fine.
Works out fine. But you do have the sense that will be delivered soon.
Yes,
It's not stuck on some container ship
No,
out in
she's got
LA.
it. She's got it at. No, it's in Tampa. She's got it.
Oh,
The
okay.
exhibit company has it in
Yeah,
their
once it's out on the
possession,
water.
so we just got to schedule with them to get down here. So
Okay.
next meeting, I will definitely say that's been completed. So
Well, that would be in a quarter, so I suspect that definitely gives you some leeway. Okay, so I know that this is not on the agenda, but Allison brought this up, which I think is worthy of of a conversation. And so you all received this memo from Steve Johnson. He's not here today to do the presentation, but it gives you an overview of what their idea is for these railings that are on the south side of Fort Myers Beach after the construction was done. Have you all had a chance to read through this thoroughly? You're kind of understanding what it is that he is proposing? He's proposing that this be a conversation with us as CELCAB members. I'm opening up for the discussion. What are your thoughts?
I'm guessing that the designs are very like what are on the railings coming up to Town Hall. I think it's an interesting idea. The library has some things these are much sturdier, much thicker pieces of aluminum than I feared when I looked at it first. Thinking that if they bent or anything, they could rip people or clothing or something, but these are very thick. But I think it is more a town thing, a Chamber of Commerce thing. There are an awful lot of these little railings going on past you, like 10 or 12 or something.
There are going to be many, many more than had existed before the road.
Really?
project. Oh, yes, you can, yeah, in fact, if you like, I'd be happy to kind of give you a general account and tell you from CVS South, there are gonna be lots and lots.
And short ones, like this long.
Because they put in so many outfalls, and so every time there's an outfall, because you can tell where the sidewalk has been poured, there'll be, they call them Jersey barriers. Those Jersey barriers are up because that's where they're gonna put one. And, there are dozens and dozens of them.
What are they called?
Those barriers are called Jersey barriers.
Jersey? No.
Jersey.
Like as
New
in New Jersey?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if the plastic ones are. That's what the cement ones are called, Jersey barriers.
Oh.
And as a child of New Jersey, that's why I remember that.
But is this sort of a code thing that is obligatory?
I would assume.
County has
It's-
no
it's-
choice but to put those
Yeah.
protective barriers
Yeah,
up.
because it's a 2-foot drop.
Just until the railings go in.
Right.
Oh, yeah, because you could fall off and then fall in. I mean, it's probably a 3-foot drop.
I would say.
Okay, so you're suggesting it's not our responsibility. Any other thoughts?
Well, I think it's an expensive proposition. I think it's interesting. I don't think it's CELCAB.
Okay,
I
thank
agree.
you. Ellen, your thoughts?
Unless it could be done as an opportunity for businesses to sponsor one and they get to etch in donated by or something. I mean, it could be something
That's
that
an
is
idea.
an outreach to the community.
I think that was part of what he said, is that there would be sort of a plaque that they could put in.
Right.
It was a very, 4-inch size plaque that
It would
would
be
allow
very
some
specific, so it
wording,
doesn't,
but,
yeah, have to be commercial.
yeah.
I think to have that as a program in fact, it even could be a member of the community. If there was one in front of your house, maybe
Yes.
you'd want to put one,
Yeah.
you'd want to put in, pick what goes in front of yours.
Right.
Well, I will count how many there are going to be. I will do from CVS South, and I'll tell you, I'll send an email and saying how many
Wonderful.
will be.
But just the majority of them just happen to be right in that south part of the beach. I don't see a lot of them elsewhere. And is that because of how the road was designed, that there are all these outfalls?
I think it had to do with, at Church of the Ascension, they stopped doing the brick center line where the water drains in.
Right.
Now, once you get past Church of the Ascension, the water drains
I see,
one
yeah,
side.
okay.
And I think they have a different dynamic for runoff at that point. I also would just add, I'm not sure how that relates, but it's somewhat related. The county originally was going to be responsible for the landscaping on Estero Boulevard. They said to the town, if we give you a chunk of money and cede this responsibility over to you all, would you take it? And we did, because we thought we would have a much more caring approach than the county would, since it's our main thoroughfare. So we have a pretty significant budget in place for the landscaping along Estero Boulevard for maintenance purposes, and obviously we'll have to install some landscape. They just voted the other day, or we just voted the other day, to not have it be grass, but have it be some sort of a native plant covering so it'd be a little prettier than just grass. But how those funds would there be enough flexibility in those funds to help adopt a program like this? I don't know. Maybe we just do a trial or a pilot project with one and see how people react to it. The jurisdictional issues are, I was going to raise this anyways. It's a little awkward because of the sunshine laws, but I always feel an obligation to be as your liaison to let you know what's going on with the council. A few weeks ago, Councilor Veach asked the council if he could put on the management and planning agenda the concept of reorganizing the advisory committee structure, taking a look at synergies, duplication, what to do with CRAB, which is now inactive. Is there crossover between BORCAB and CELCAB?
Right.
And he opened this, and I don't want to speak for him because he didn't elaborate too much on it, but I wanted to give you all a heads up that there is, I think, going to be a serious discussion about those dynamics. And I would encourage you to maybe when you see Counselor Veach next time, or you get a chance to see him, just ask him what he's thinking about. I can't talk to him outside the meeting about this because it's coming before the council, which is sort of
Right,
strange,
of
but
course.
it's just the way we
Exactly.
live, our world. But you can, and if you have thoughts on it, and you have input, I would encourage you to reach out to him, and I think Roger's aware of it as well, so I think, I just wanted to give you a heads up that these conversations are beginning to ruminate, and I'm not sure what the outcome will be, because we haven't had them yet, but I didn't want you to be blindsided.
Thank you
Good.
for that, Jim.
Thank you.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
And
And
I would
actually-
say to Sherry too, that last time poor Barbara was up here, I think Counselor Veach asked you, I kind of surprised you with the question, do you have enough to do at your committee? So, and Barbara, I think I think you're a little bit taken back by that, and of course, we've had the COVID issue, which has slowed down the work of the
Right.
committee a little bit, but, so I'm just saying, I think there's a lot of thinking going on by some as to how to potentially reorganize the advisory committees and their various jurisdictions.
And there have been rumblings about that for the last several years, so Veach's, idea about rethinking that is not necessarily a new one, new coming from council, but I think I'd heard that among staff, a few years ago. So I do think that it definitely bears review in terms of what our respective roles are. And this is a case in point where there's some ambiguity as to what our role really is. This is basically right? Not necessarily. Now, is beautification cultural? Of course it is. So obviously, we're a cultural advisory board. So, does that fall into our arena? That brings up interesting questions. So I think all of us that serve on advisory boards would appreciate greater clarification. So Steve knows full well what board this is to be addressed.
And this could go larger than clarification. There could be some merging, a suggestion of merger of certain committees. I know it seems like CRAB is kind of, it's inactive now and maybe sort of formally to rest at some point.
Right.
So there'll be a lot of discussions. I just didn't want you to be surprised by, to hear.
Well,
see
and
all this.
again, I think there are a lot of people, and, because Betty and I both serve on BORCAB and CELCAB, there's obviously a lot of crossover because we know a lot of the same people. Allison is the director of Parks Recreation and Parks Recreation and Cultural Resources. And so it's already under her umbrella. And yet we have two advisory boards. And I think the reason for that was the Mound House was such a huge project from the inception. Now that it's run under one department administratively, why would that not also be combined as far as advisory? So I can certainly see that point of view.
I can too.
Right, but then there are people that are Mound House people, and then there are people who are Bay Oaks people, and neither should meet, so.
I just was talking to Roger before the meeting, one of the thoughts to be aware of is that after the new Bay Oaks is complete, it's going to be hosting events, and there's potential that it could be, in a friendly way, a competitor with Mound House to host different events. And if the same folks were overseeing both, you potentially reduce that tension and encourage cooperation between the two facilities so they're not competing against each other. Maybe there's certain niches that each one goes after and so forth, but it's an interesting thought.
It is. It is.
What do you think, Betty?
Oh, yes.
So I'm just going to comment on what Jim just said about that, because I am aware that there is talk of that. One thing that the Mound House does, and it's kind of a basic museum practice because there are all kinds of museums out there. One thing that I will continue to do as the director of both departments, not to say that people in the future will, but anybody on the beach, Lover's Key, you have Ding Dar. I mean, there's a lot of different organizations that are like Newton Beach Park and Mound House. The rule is to complement what others are doing and not compete.
It's well said, yeah.
So, that was something that can get lost sometimes. I'm very in tune with it because of the area in which I came from, the Edison and Ford and other attractions in Florida and just in the museum field. There's room enough for all of us, but it's really important to show that collaboration to where you're complementing what somebody else is doing. It can be very difficult sometimes, and I can see where the concern is that. But that is something that we always, I find out what's going on everywhere, even with the fundraising, with the calendar. We want to make sure that we're not duplicating and competing, but we're complementing. We do, all the businesses try to get on the calendar to make sure we're not having too many events at the same night, things like that. So it's an interesting point for sure, because I don't know how many people are really aware how important that is when you're a part of an organization such.
And I did notice too, because with Bay Oaks, you're now going to be offering kayak tours.
No, I don't
No,
have.
I thought maybe that was going to be part of that development, that there was talk about that at one point, but
Oh,
obviously.
so there was talk about having a ramp that had access to the Great Calusa Blue Way.
Right.
So it
Right.
would have been access. They wanted access because they're seniors go on kayak trips and part of recreation.
That's that boss group, right?
Yeah,
The Bay
yeah.
Oaks
So
Seniors.
it was that was the previous director really wanted to see if they could have access for people to be able to join the Great Calusa Blue Way.
So instead of doing that locally, what I did read is that you have these kayak tours to like the Mayaca State Park, and you're doing this kind of like a day trip kind of
They
thing.
do, and
And that's a great thing. And of course, that's complementing what you're doing at the Mound House,
Exactly.
so
And they-
that's not conflicting in any way.
and they come to the Mound House too.
Oh, good.
So they use our ramp and they come they came during COVID. But yeah, good point, Barbara. That was something that was on the agenda to see if they could get TDC funding to be able to access that Great Calusa Blue Way, because it was down far enough and different access points than what Mound House has. But it never got, the mangroves and the environmental, be able to impact that was quite extensive. And then,
Okay, but I'm still open to the idea of the reorganization of the advisory boards. I'd
Absolutely.
like to know, if that's going to be something that the council is going to put on the front burner and really make happen. Whatever makes sense administratively, obviously, should be respected by us as advisory board members. I don't feel all of us really feel this proprietary, this is our nut and we don't want you messing with it. So I think, we have to be open-minded to say whatever works for the town is what will work for us.
Jim's right. The plan for Bay Oaks is to really make it a community center, to have more activities and things that we are currently, also going for the Mound House. So it will be a different venue, but it will have a lot of similarities.
Again, the conversation hasn't even occurred yet, but I know it's about to occur, so I just wanted to make sure you all, if you run into folks, just if you have thoughts or concerns or encouragement, I would encourage you to share it.
I'm remembering, this is pre-Allison, which has made all the difference. I think we met every month for 2 years, sometimes twice a month. CELCAB was making decisions about design.
Everything, right.
And text,
And I'm thinking about Bay Oaks and all this stuff and what BORCAB decisions. Y'all can do that. I'm just thinking,
right, but you're not that yeah, I hear you.
yeah, and certainly until Bay Oaks is done, ready to go, and has some sort of committee that is running it, to combine them, I think at that point, before that point, would be a disservice. And and I'm not even sure I would agree with, there has to be some sort of complementary, but.
You raise a really good point, because obviously when we were building the Mound House, and this was before I came along, which was in like 2007, but when Teresa was putting this together and the CELCAB was having a tremendous responsibility of how this was going to look, where was the funding was going to come from, where was the feeling of the council, were they for it, they were against it. It was a political hotbed at
Well, it
that
was
time,
after-
very, very controversial.
After Teresa, that it
And
got
after
really,
Teresa, we had no leadership,
we had no leadership.
and
it
it
got
was
worse.
going from bad to worse, and we were meeting at least twice a month and dealing with the issues having to do with exhibit design. It was just fundamental stuff that was supposed to have been handled by staff, but wasn't. And I can envision, now that we're doing,
CELCAB.
redeveloping Bay Oaks,
Yeah.
that we'll be doing a very active job of making sure that all the things that were promised that, will be in this $7 million facility will be done. And so that oversight, I think, is a far more active one. I find it very analogous. So I kind of think we're, with Bay Oaks, what we were with Mound House 7 years ago.
Exactly. And it is.
And it's exciting,
Yeah,
though.
it is.
It's all good.
It's very exciting, and the idea that we'll have a community center, again, it is not to compete. Somebody said, well, gee, if somebody wants to meet, they can go to the library. Well, community center would be open more hours. I mean, sometimes the library got to be pretty bogged down. And so I just think that it's something that I'm glad to hear that Councilmember Veach is looking into this, because it's certainly something that we ought to be talking about. And I'm hoping that he might even come in and talk to some of us about it.
And that was
No,
kind
I
of
mean-
my point, because Barbara, you raised a good point. I would encourage you just to reach out to him and just share that perspective. And I think, it would be helpful for him to hear. In an M&P meeting, you can't take public testimony. So for you all to be able to reach out and talk with him,
Yes.
particularly as leaders in the community, and just share your thoughts on it. This is just a heads up so you can do that
Oh, it's good.
before it gets too far along.
Right.
Yeah.
So getting back to this question of the beautification of these trails, what is I don't believe we need to have board action, but if we can have a consensus of how to address and respond to this letter, what would you all suggest?
I would refer it to the council. What do they think? Could it go to the Chamber of Commerce? Is it something that they would like to do and get businesses to sponsor? How would that work? But maybe go to the council.
I think going to the council would be, and certainly maybe even going to Roger, because,
Yes.
if there's an inactive advisory board that would have been the appropriate spot for
Yeah.
this project, then that's an administrative issue or a council issue that then has to be addressed one way or the other. So if that board isn't active, who does take this? I don't believe it's our responsibility either, basically, because our entity is really sort of more property-based. It's, the parks, the recreation campus, and the Mound House and Newton Park. And that's a pretty full plate for,
You bet.
all of us, including staff and council and advisory board members. So if we're getting into community beautification projects which require funding, which is another whole different ballgame, I would prefer to see that in another person's hands.
I think that's wise for a couple reasons. Number one, the funding piece, because the county did provide the town significant funding for the landscaping. The other piece, this is probably a good question for our town attorney and the county, even though we have landscaping rights and responsibilities, with respect to these railings, they could be county railings, so we may need permission from them, their attorney. There may be a whole nother piece of that I think maybe the town needs to be engaged with the county on.
Right.
To make sure they're,
Agreed.
safety and
bet.
in today's world, everything's about liability. And whether the county would be allowed to allow those to even be placed in their guardrails. I think it's something that has to probably go, I agree, I think it needs to go through the town in some capacity.
And when my first thought when I looked at these metal pieces, to me, that is a problem waiting to happen. It's a safety issue. If you've got sharp
Yes.
metal shapes that aren't just tubular, which is currently all there is, you're inviting,
That, if you feel the ones on the way up, because they're decorating the rails on the way up to town hall. There are these kinds of things on the railings coming up to town hall, on the stairs.
oh.
And they're very thick.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
But that would be town property versus, this would be county, yeah.
No, I get the difference, but I would have been dead set against anything till I felt those.
Yeah.
Much more substantial, but again,
So I would prefer not for, CELCAB to have this as a response.
I'm gonna rescind my offer to count the ones between CVS and them, because if the county is going to get involved, the county, I'm sure, knows how many are going to be there.
you could count it and send it to Jim so he would know.
If the county's count is correct.
Okay, so Allison, it is the consensus that the board doesn't feel that this is an appropriate project for us.
Thank you
If you
all
could
for
let
your-
Steve know,
sure
tell
will.
him we
Thank you.
appreciate his
Appreciate it.
wonderful project, and just requires, I think, town involvement rather than advisory board involvement. Okay, no public available to comment, so we'll look at the future meeting date. And if Sherry is going to be giving the report on December 6th on behalf of CELCAB, do you feel we need a meeting before that, or we are able to meet maybe sometime, what is it?
Probably after the holidays, but if anybody has anything that they want me, if they have anything that they want me to bring up specifically, I'd appreciate you letting me know to cover when I talk to council.
Yeah, and I think, the nice thing about that strategic plan is that, because of every 6 months, we've had it updated, just can say, okay, in the last year, this is what we've accomplished. That's all basically written out in the outline, which is very cool. Great reference point for you.
Right.
I would say February, Thursday at 3:00. What date is that?
Last Thursday in February?
That was
Oh,
the
it-
4th.
Yes, it is, sorry.
4th, okay, so that's the 24th.
What date is it?
February
24th?
24th is the
24th,
fourth
okay,
Thursday.
February 24th. Okay, that'll be our next meeting date, 2022. So obviously, we will by that time have all of these holidays behind us,
Yes.
upon us.
Season upon us.
All right,
I did
board
want to-
member items. Yes, okay, go ahead.
And it would be under our board member items. I know that Allison is always well aware of any publicity that we get on the Mound House. And there was a full page in what they call the Sun Bay paper. And it's all the Fort Myers Beach Mound House outdoor nature and educational events for November. And if you haven't seen that, I'll just give that to you.
Thank you, Betty.
Yeah, and since, we've talked about that before, let's see how much publicity and that we do get something in the newspaper every week. It would be wonderful to keep that in front of everybody. I mean, we're well aware of it, but I think that this is also important. And in that same line, I was at a Lee County Parks and Rec meeting, and our leader said, I was out to the Mound House and I saw what you're talking about. And I said, well, thank you, because you want to remember when I give a report at Lee County Parks and Recreation, I can only talk about Lee County Parks. And so we're talking about Bowditch, Lynn Hall, Crescent Beach Park, the Preserve. I go all the way down Dog Beach, and then of course I can go the other way across. And so I can give those reports. But to have somebody say they'd like to know a little bit more about the Mound House, I thought, oh, well, you've come to the right place. And so
It just so happens I serve on that board too. is
yeah,
what you
so
said.
that was nice. And I said, we could have, and Alice and I have talked about this, we go to all the different county parks, and all the way up to Boca Grande, and then throughout the county. And there are a lot of parks, and that they're talking about now, the Larry Kiker area, and that's going to be a beautiful park, and even for camping type, I mean, different than, we couldn't have anything like that at the beach, but I just thought, wouldn't it be nice for them to be able to come out here, because they would also need to see our county parks. But this is just giving them the opportunity to see something else that we have. And he just happened to bring it up. And he said, now I know what you're talking about, that mound house. So,
Thank you for sharing that, Betty.
Yeah. all I had.
Okay, thank you. Sherry,
Oh,
have any
that's-
board member items?
Yes. First of all, I'd like to thank Allison for allowing us to, if I have this correctly, use things from the gift shop for the Mound House tree. at the-
Absolutely. You're
yeah.
going to come pick something out, Sherry?
Yeah, I looked when I was there Saturday.
Okay.
I mean, there's so many decorations
Yes,
there.
absolutely. We
That
will.
it's for, they have the women's have the Christmas tree festival.
Yes, for the Friends of
Right.
Mound House.
And we always, and I think this year we're gonna have a booth. Am I not, is that correct, Al?
I think we're working
We're
that out.
working on maybe having a booth, but we always do a Christmas tree, and then they bid on it. And Allison has allowed us to, anything we want from the gift shop. So I wanted to say thank you
You're
very
welcome.
much
You
for
just have
that.
to decide what you want.
I know, and there's so much, you know.
I'd
And,
love to sponsor that for sure.
okay, thank you. So, and we always do pretty well on it. And just another question I had, and we brought this up at our Friends meeting, and maybe this just goes to Friends, but we mentioned benches that were gonna be, and I was wondering, have we decided on a certain type bench yet
So-
for the Mound House?
You all, this was a while back, several years ago, CELCAB was looking at different styles. It's gone back to the Friends, though, because it's a
Okay.
fundraiser, and so when they gather their information, they will report to CELCAB on the style that they think. We already know, we already decided the amount, because, we can't have a whole lot there.
Mhm,
10.
Right, 10,
So we'll have to revisit that with CELCAB. That was quite some time ago.
right.
But yes, the Friends will continue to research some styles that will fit the existing components at the Mound House, and I shared with them some of the discussions, so they should be coming
We do the
back.
type.
They would like,
Okay, I'm just
to be a
wondering on
great
type.
fundraising effort.
Right. And also, just as we're talking about the Mound House, I got recognized in Publix as being a docent.
That is fantastic.
I know. It came up to me and she, and it tickled
that's
me,
awesome.
and she said, and we just had the best time. Thank you. And I went, my gosh. I'm getting
She's got a
recognized.
fan club. Sherry's got a fan club.
I've got a fan club.
Awesome.
You were
But
not
I
in
just, and it was
uniform.
somebody here on the island, and they have brought people in, and I said, keep bringing, people
Yes.
in, and thank you. But it was just so funny.
Oh, that's great.
I know.
that.
In the cereal aisle.
You
love
were
it.
thinking out Fruit Loops or something.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, that was funny.
Did they ask for your autograph?
But she said that they would be coming back a lot.
Okay,
So,
good.
yeah, I autographed a Cheerios box and gave it to her, A
Wheaties box,
Wheaties, that's what it should have been. But it was just tickled me. I was so funny. So
Very
I thought,
cute.
yeah. So
That
that's-
makes all of that volunteering so worthwhile,
But
doesn't
it does, it does.
So
To hear somebody
gratifying.
say that they had a great time, it was so much fun. And I went, what did I do? But anyway, it was very satisfying.
great. Thanks for sharing
So,
that.
yeah.
You were not in uniform or anything.
No,
I
I
mean, you were
wasn't.
just
I didn't even have,
the
my
grocery store.
T-shirt, Mound House
They
shirt on or
recognized you.
anything,
That's
just
great.
So, anyway, it was just kind of funny.
That's fun.
And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Sherry. Tim, I know we've already had a bit of conversation, but do you have anything to add on a general note?
No, that was going to be my agenda item, and so I have nothing additional, but thank you.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure. And Ellen,
Actually, I managed to come up with an agenda item on my way here from the Mound House. I took a little break and I went to Royal Scoop to have what I refer to as sneaky. Welcome to use that term. We have ice cream for lunch. It's called sneaky lunch. And he said, because I had on my Mound House shirt, having just finished a volunteer shift, he said, do you have any materials to talk about the Mound House? Because people come in here all the time and want to do something on the island other than go to the beach. I said, I will be seeing Allison and we'll make arrangements to get cards to you that
That'd be great. Right.
and then it started thinking that I'm sure if we reached out to other businesses on the beach, many would be happy to have cards. And I guess it becomes go and do the survey.
It's an excellent suggestion, and it's a wonderful complement to what we already get from the the Arts and Attractions grant from TDC, because they do not fund printed materials.
We don't.
So we are not able to get those cards out to the hotels because that's not something that they fund. But if you, as a Friends,
Well, obviously, I can't make the decision on behalf of the Friends, but that will certainly be something we'll put on the agenda for our next, and we meet monthly at this time of year, so we can make the decision relatively quickly. And I suspect there'll be strong support, but again, it has to go.
So just a little background, Barbara's right. There is actually a service by Southwest Florida Distributing, I think that's their name, that we used to pay for rack card service. And that means that a lot of the larger attractions, hoteliers and lodging partners, have a part of that service. That means I pay them to go restock, and I can pay for a space. So if there's a business that is not part of that we can do that. I don't want to take a spot of somebody paying if that's a part of their service. That's always been my hesitancy. But there's several of the smaller restaurants and also some of the larger lodging partners that have called us recently. And I'm like, yes, how many do you need? So we are able to get it printed, Barbara, because the Friends of Mound House and the town matches that grant, but we can't use, you're absolutely right, we can't use their funds. We can say our match is going to pay for that because.
exactly.
Yeah, but you're right, they pay for no printed material at all.
Yeah, that's.
So we use that for the match, and then I dropped the distributing service because it was quite expensive. But it would be a great thing to be able to get some help because I think a lot would like to have some information.
Do you happen to know because if there was a way to figure out who's not using that service, then we could more direct like a squad that went out and took certain blocks and went and asked.
I'll check with Eric. He is the representative from that, and I'll check with him to see if we can get a list of who is participating, and that way we're not encroaching.
We can eliminate those, right?
Yes, that would be a great idea, Ellen.
Because I think the smaller organizations on the beach, and to be honest, we all have seen those rate card things. If there are 50 things, you're getting lost. You're one of 50. If you go into Royal Scoop and we're right there on the counter, it's a big difference.
We will be glad.
Catherine used to go around.
She did, yes. And at one time there was a list. Ellen, you probably don't remember.
I remember that list. Yeah. That's why it's coming back to me.
Yes. We had a list of all the businesses that might be interested in trying to divide and conquer with volunteers to go and say, hi, I'm from Mound House, and to be able to do that. I never had quite enough staff to be able to do that portion, but know how important it is.
If you could get the list of who's not participating in that, then that too can be on the agenda for the next Friends.
I'll reach out to Eric.
And knowing that, I know, we can even look for volunteers like young people who need community service, who could actually, we can put something.
Well, and again, who knows how old that list is? There's a lot of change in hotel ownership, and their philosophy about rack cards can be very different. So,
absolutely. We've had some lodging partners call recently, actually today, that I was surprised that they didn't go through the service, and I said, I would for sure, how many do you need? I think you're absolutely right, Barbara. There's been a lot of change. And I'll get the information that I can about who's signed up for that distribution, because I definitely don't want to be providing those rack cards without paying for that.
Right. Yes. Well, again, like you're being complimentary, not competitive. But in the meantime, maybe I'll just stop by and get the Royal Scoop ones and just hand deliver those.
That would be great, Ellen.
Actually, I'll come by tomorrow and get them.
Great. We'll have them ready for you.
Are you on the Friends Board?
No, I'm ex officio exemplary
Emeritus.
honored.
You're emeritus. You're
I'm
board
emeritus.
Okay, got it. Then I will ask this of you, Ellen, because at our last CELCAB meeting, there was some question about the post office box.
Well, and actually,
Do you have an update on that?
we do, and Betty, who's in charge of our post office, can provide you that update, right?
Take it away.
Well, now that it is closed, and I had gone down to the other post office to find out what we could do. And of course, we wanted to keep our same number, and we like the 3 digits instead of 4. Let's see, what else? The zip code, which of course, their zip code is different than ours. And so we had some concerns about it. And so I went in and I said, well, how do I do this? And I obviously did not have the authority to be able to do that. And so I brought the paperwork back, and so now it has been turned over to Ellen, and
Jim Steele actually went to, because there is a service at Santini that will administer post office boxes. They're not U.S. Post Office, but they are U.S. Post Office boxes, but it's not a U.S. Postal Service
right.
space. So we're paying a little bit of a surcharge. So we're paying $210 or $207 a year for our post box. And Jim Steele filled out all the paperwork, so we're
Right.
He says he
And
has a
so I
key.
said that I would be happy to pick up the mail. I used to do it down here all the time, but you're down here all the time. So, but I'm up at that end at least once a week, and so that'll
This
just
will
be,
be in Santini Plaza, just
That's
be
in
behind.
Santini,
Yeah.
right?
So, yeah.
so that's not a big thing. I can.
We
I mean, that's
also
not a
do not
problem.
have the expense of changing our address.
Right.
That's a big deal.
Oh, you
I
bet
think-
it is.
Right, and this came up as an agenda conversation at our last meeting, because we didn't know if this is something that should be merged with the Mound House address in terms of the post office
Exactly.
box,
Talked
if
about
you
that.
remember. So I think somebody was going to check on that and report back this month, just to clarify that we, as Mound House, group, that we're not responsible for your post office box, nor is it really something that we could bring into our correspondence here.
And we did get legal clarification from our wonderful intrepid, no longer with us.
That's,
Dan-
yeah, that's
Dan Hughes.
when we
And
didn't have the answer.
And then I did a
so-
follow-up with his son, but Dan had confirmed that legally, the Friends of the Mound House should have its own postal.
Okay,
And keep-
fantastic, okay.
And it
That-
should not be somebody's
keep
house.
it.
That answered our questions from last meeting. Thank you very much, Ellen. Okay, Becky, what do you have to report?
I'm just happy to be here. That's
I'm
it.
happy to
We're
have
happy
you
to
here,
have
too.
you.
How are you feeling?
I'm feeling very good right now, and I'm going to get a booster on Saturday, and then I'm going to feel like rejoining the world.
Good. Well, you are already here among us, you know. And there you are.
And here I am.
Okay,
That's it.
thank you. I really have nothing to report, and I'm looking forward to the Members' Appreciation Party. I hope that all of the volunteers will be there. I think it'll be a great event. So we'll see everybody. That's November 6th? Friday, November 5th.
5:30.
Fantastic.
30 to
5:30 to 7 is what I believe you said. Excellent.
Barbara?
Yes.
I just had one thought, and Allison, I just thought I'd ask this publicly so that people can stay abreast of this issue. Can't remember, did we decide amongst ourselves who's going to research that swing set that we saw?
Yes.
From the DC, if you could find out who
It
that,
made it in the minutes.
oh, great.
So it
But
made
if we could find out,
We have the picture of it here,
Yeah.
and yeah, it was
Yeah.
attached to our minutes, but
Right,
I don't think
exactly.
we had any follow-up, did
the reason
we?
why I think it's important is that if we could find out who did it and what the cost would be, then particularly since our next meeting's in February, we could begin to lay the groundwork, or I could begin to lay the groundwork to try to get some money in the budget for that, the next budget cycle.
Okay,
And I just didn't know if you had a colleague in DC that could, just sort of director to director, try to get some of that information, see if they'd share that with us, and
I actually do have a contact. I still think he's in D.
it'd be wonderful. I think everybody saw, Ellen, I don't
Yeah,
think you've
we
seen it.
have the
Or did
picture
you
over
see it?
here,
Like-
yes.
Yeah.
It's,
I thought it was a great idea.
I did too.
well, somebody here mentioned it about a year ago, and I just sort of picked up on it, but it's, this concept of swinging and looking at the ocean, I think it would just be a home run. And
Great idea.
I think
Thank
it
you.
probably would require some significant funding, which I think the town, we could hopefully get my colleagues to support. But
Okay, Jim, I will definitely check it.
The bocce courts aren't used.
No,
Exactly,
Yeah.
and that would be basically where the.
Yes.
Looking to.
be great.
I'm in Newton Park on a regular basis, and I've never, and I love the bocce ball. Somebody was well-intended, but I've never seen anybody use them.
No.
Mm-hmm.
Nope, I agree. Okay, so, is there any further business to come before our, CELCAB meeting? There being none, I'd like to motion to adjourn, please.
Second?
Thank you. Who made the motion?
Ellen
Okay,
Vaughn,
you
I'm
made
sorry,
the
Ellen
motion. Who's seconded?
I'll second.
All right, and that would be Sherry. All right, motion, approved, and the meeting is adjourned, 4:10.